my beautiful people? It's your favorite auntie, Tamika Marie.
Hey, beautiful people.
Hey there, beautiful people. Hey there, beautiful people.
Hey there, beautiful people. It's your auntie of taxation, Tamika Marie here today, and I'm coming with an overview of why it's so important for us to have solid agreements for everything. Listen, good contracts protect your bag. They set clear expectations, squash misunderstandings before they can even start. And I know in this industry, you've probably heard and seen some interesting stories. Everything from theft of services to underdelivery, non-payment for tax pros, EROs, and some people have outright stolen other people's intellectual property. So today, we're going to shore up some of those leaky ships, and this is going to be a recurring theme for this education series. So strap in, and let me show you how you're going to start the process of securing your coins. All right, so we're just going to jump right to it. Every tax pro and ERO in here is going to need 3 to 4 basic concepts in their agreements. Number one is going to be the engagement. It lays out exactly what you're going to deliver, what your clients are going to get, right? And then also it tells them what it is that they need to provide for you in order for you to be able to provide them with that service. You're also going to have to address your contractors. Contractor agreements are going to define roles clearly, right? You also have NDAs, and that is going to make sure that you keep your business policies, terms, and all of that good stuff private. This is especially good if you're meeting with people for consultations and things of that nature, right? And then every agreement, no matter what it is, if it's a contractor agreement, if it's an engagement agreement, if it's a software agreement, everything needs to have payment terms to make sure that your money stays consistent. All right. I'll toss up some samples for you guys in the replay, but keep in mind that even these are going to have to be highly tweaked and then reviewed by a legal advisor. By the way, I'm working on that for this team, right? Okay. So don't ever let anyone convince you that cookie cutter is going to work, because it does not. We stand out and apart around here. And this means that your business agreements are going to have to be just as nuanced as your services and your business model. These agreements are put in place for one main reason, and that is to protect your bag and then also to protect you. So listen, clarity is queen. Gone are the days where contracts need to have tangled and garbled language that you need a translator to read. It's 2025, and your agreement should be easy to understand, lay out exactly who it does. Lay out exactly what it does, list clear deliverables, and detail the money terms up front. Clear terms save friendships and coins. And speaking of friendships, please, in business, think long and hard and have a solid ass contract before you even think about doing it, right? So, you want to make sure that you tailor your agreements so that they directly support your pricing model, which we will outline in the next session. The goal is to CYA, also known as covering your ass. And while you're also securing the client deliverables, agreements should protect everyone involved, not just you. The agreement should also have a clear understanding and deliverable for the person that is signing it, so they know what they're agreeing to and what their responsibility is. All right. The scope of work is your blueprint. Specify what's included, what's not, and when it's due. Keep those examples sharp and clear, no confusion, no drama. If you are delivering a tax return and the time frame is roughly 7 days, outline what's included in that tax return. Are you going to give them a digital copy, or do they need to come and pick up a paper copy? Or do you only just give them access to a portal? You know what I mean? You want to outline that information clearly. And how long is that accessible? And at what time do you start charging them for an additional copy? If you give them one paper copy, if they come back and need another one, are you going to charge them? You want to put that in your contract. If their portal expires after a year, if you're like using TaxSlayer, and when they log in next year, if they're not going to be able to see that tax return, you need to put that in their contract that they need to download that information by the end of the year. Because when that portal resets, now you've got to track down that tax return, and it's maybe cost you a couple of dollars in order to do that, but you want to put it in your contract. Don't leave anything to guess about. If there is a what if, toss that piece in there. Had an issue in this season? Update that contract, Bookie. Real time experiences should be assessed, realized, and forwarded to legal for review and added as an addendum, or just update the contract completely. This is business, and business is never personal. And without a solid contract, things can get really personal and uncomfortable quickly. Protecting your investment is the main theme of this season, setting up clear payment details, deposits, milestones, and final payments up front. So you want to do that just from the jump. And don't be shy about late payments or fees, because if someone is late, you know what I mean? We don't have a regular job. A lot of us, this is our career and this is how we pay our bills. So if someone's late, it might throw off your balances, and you want to make sure that you account for that. All right. Your money deserves respect. Your time deserves respect. The moment that you start to run your business like a mom and pop, things get blurry and people can protest to your inconsistencies. All right. Everyone needs to go through your pipeline. Everyone needs to sign. Everyone needs to pay. Do not Zelle and Cash App your way into a tangled nightmare. Make sure you always follow up with the paperwork and connect the lines and dots of how someone was paid, and then also how they are going to renew. Now, it's a two-edged sword when you're doing your payment terms. If you're doing invoices, stick to invoices. When it comes into Cash App and Zelle, yes, the client cannot do a chargeback, but you also run the risk of being at their discretion from when it is that they're going to pay. So make sure you have those clear cutoff terms, all right? Who owns what? When it comes to intellectual property and ownership, you want to spell that out. Differentiate if you're licensing content or handing over full ownership. Set clear usage limits and keep it drama free. If you're writing content, tax plans, courses, etc., then it's important to outline who retains those rights and what the right to use includes. If they can't sell it, you want to let them know and be clear about what's going to happen in those repercussions. All right. NDAs are your business bestie for protecting your sensitive info. Clearly define what's confidential and lay out those consequences if somebody runs their mouth. It's plain and simple. You want to be able to protect your moves. Now, let me tell you a situation where this would be ideal. I, as a service bureau, meet with a ton of other service bureaus and I give them consultations on what it is that they need to do. In that process, sometimes they might get to see certain things on my back end as I'm flipping through my screens. That's all an NDA. If I forward you a copy of that Zoom and you start sharing that information and it gets out, well, then yeah, I'll sue that ass. So, all right. So, termination and cancellation policies. Life happens. So, define how and when agreements can end. Lay out refund policies clearly to protect your revenue, right? If you give them a refund on their software, if they don't do anything with it, outline that, but also give them the terms like, we'll only do it within 30 days. If you do not provide refunds for digital downloads or when they go to take a class, make sure that that is very clear so that you have the ability to prevent losing your chargebacks. All right. So clear cancellation terms equal fewer headaches. Chargebacks are a common thing in this industry, and so are delayed payments. It's just the way it is. All right, you want to limit your liability to clearly protect your coins. All right, consider arbitration over expensive court battles to keep disputes quick, cost effective, and easy. When you're dealing with things like theft of services, you still want to take into consideration that you may need things like police reports for theft of services issues, or if someone is withholding a large amount of funds from you. All of that is going to come into consideration. So, but soon someone really ain't that expensive. It kind of depends on how much money you're looking at. If it's under 5,000, that's small claims court. So don't make it seem like recouping or suing someone is a big deal. It's not. And also understand you can sue someone for anything at any time. Frivolous lawsuits are just also about collecting a large amount of fees. All right, solid dot lines. Keep your project smooth. Define each deliverable clearly and include how you'll handle delays or changes. All right. If someone does not give you their W 2s on time, you cannot process that tax return. So you need to have that verbiage in your contract that lets them know what's your cutoff date. For example, mine is March 10th. If you do not have me your information by March 10th, you're going on extension. And that information is clearly outlined in my contract. If we are doing a payment arrangement, and you miss a payment arrangement, if we are doing an amendment and you fall out of compliance, there's so many different scenarios in which I will tell a person I have to professionally walk away from you. So you want to make sure that whatever your business boundaries are, they're included. Everyone stays accountable and the coins keep on flowing. You don't want to have people hanging on to you that are going to show up on April 10th screaming at the top of their lungs because they just gave you something and they expect you to turn tight ones and produce miracles. While we are the gatekeepers of the tax code, we cannot turn water into wine at all times. All right. It's also important to keep a log of communication. Those of you who have TRM, make notations to keep up with your clients. Who paid? Who didn't? Who is habitually late with their documents? These types of assessments definitely matter as you continue to move forward, your business grows, and you change the type of client that you want to continue to deal with. All right. Your agreements need to hold up legally. All right. So the enforceability of these agreements have to have value. So avoid rookie mistakes like unclear terms, missing signatures, or erroneous clauses. All right. Let's address the elephant in the room. Non-competes outside of the current season are generally not enforceable. Can you keep someone from double dipping in the season? Yes, absolutely you can. You cannot work for me as a tax professional. All right, as a tax professional, a P10 worker, and simultaneously, one, be an ERO, or two, work for a competitive company. Now, I personally do not care if they're sitting in an H&R Block. I don't care because they're not going to take my clients from off the internet and go and process their tax returns in H&R Block. It's not generally going to happen, okay? Why would they for an hourly pay when, my compensation structure is a lot better than H&R Block's? However, you cannot be a tax pro of mine and take the clientele that I provide and then go and use them in your ERO system, which is why we don't hire specifically EROs. If someone has an EFIN, we decline to work with them as P10 in our P10 program, okay? So can you do that? Yes. All right. Can you bar them from choosing another ERO or service bureau or becoming an ERO the following year? No, you cannot. Just because someone is a tax pro under you this year, if they decide that they want to go and get their own EFIN next year, you cannot bar them from doing that. If they decide that they want to work for another person as a P10 person the following year, you cannot stop them from doing that. If they want to move to a different service bureau, if they're an ERO of yours and they move to a different service bureau, you cannot bar them from doing that. Courts usually do not uphold non-competes because people have to make a living. And contrary to popular belief, the tax industry is not proprietary. We all use the same info, the same software types. We all can generally arrive at the same or similar paths doing the same thing. So, can you protect your business IP? Yes. Can you protect your proprietary info? Yes. Can you stop someone from, you know, basically carbon copying your entire back office and then going to set up, like stealing your contracts and taking your forms and slapping their logo on them and, redoing yes, you can stop someone from doing that, but can you tell them that they can't go down the street and, become their own business? You really can't. Tight contracts stand strong if disputes arise, but they need to be reasonable. All right. So you want to avoid rookie mistakes, vague terms, unclear roles, undefined variables, and learn from these slip ups to build stronger contracts that will protect your business. Your agreement grows as your business grows. I started with a 1-page agreement for taxes, and it's now about 4 pages. You see where I'm going with this? As you encounter life, the agreement is going to grow with you. And let's talk for real. I'll share some tea about the tax industry cases where unclear agreements cause drama, like specifically for me, and how contracts did and could have changed the game. So, number one, I was in a non compete that couldn't hold water. Okay. We're going to call this signed but not sealed because the non compete didn't stick. All right. I was a tax preparer who worked under an ERO and they had me sign what was considered to be a non-compete. The contract stated that I couldn't prepare taxes within a 50-mile radius for 2 years after leaving. But here was the problem. They didn't pay me all of my money. They got up, they left. in which I would have been happy to continue to work for them because at that point in time, I was making a lot of money and I did not want to be under the auspices of running an EFAN, right? I didn't have enough to be able, I didn't have enough knowledge. I was still in my gathering my info stage. I had just gotten done working for Liberty and writing those SOPs. So now I was kind of testing out my hypothesis, you know what I mean? And it was under someone else's dime. So it's always easier, you know what I mean? To kind of run someone else's business and see how that works. Anyway, had a little bit of free reign there. And I made them a lot of money, but they took off and they didn't pay me. And an $11,000 final payment cost them so much money because when they sued me, when they didn't pay me and I left, right? I was going to go and open up a business somewhere closer to where I lived. But because they decided that they were going to sue me when I did not return to continue to run their tax office, I rented the place right across the street. I set up shop, and because they made such a big deal out of suing me, the non-compete not only did not hold any value because they didn't pay me in exchange, they didn't complete their part of the contract. There was no incentive. The language was too broad and restrictive, which the courts would not enforce. And when I opened up my tax office across the way and they tried to sue me, it was basically free marketing. People were lining up around the corner. And that's literally how I grossed so much money my first year out in taxes because of the drama. All right. So if you really want to be a tightwad, you can mess yourself out of some money really, really bad behind drama. So the lesson is if the non-compete isn't reasonable and doesn't offer real consideration, like specialized training, bonuses, payment on time, it likely will not hold up in court. And it's just going to make you look horrible. All right. So number 2 is the ERO who tried to dodge the software bill. All right. So I had an ERO ghost an invoice. They ran a small service bureau first year, signed up for the software reseller program, and they had some preparers under them, which means that they were not only making money in their service bureau, they were also selling software. But they didn't read the fine print that stated that they needed to pay their re-up invoice. And when it came time to pay that re-up invoice, they dodged it. Didn't budget for it, didn't pay it, and I had to shut that service bureau down. And unfortunately, their team got shut down. Now, here's what ended up happening. Their team, who had paid for the right to be in that software, no longer had services and support. I can attest to how they rectified that or what ended up happening, but I just know that all of their data and information was on lock mid-season. So they had to explain to people why they no longer had access to software. And I know people are like, well, that's real messed up. But how can you actively be in a software making money and then not paying your actual bills, right? So the software got cut off mid-season. Tax pros couldn't file returns. Clients were heated and preparers jumped ship. And it was a damage to their reputation because they didn't want to pay a bill. So your agreements aren't just legal documents. They're commitments that directly affect your brand and your reputation and your money. And if you don't honor them on both sides, you risk losing everything that you have built. So just like you're locking that person into that payment, you are also locking yourself into delivery. So you had better deliver. All right. Tools and templates. Do not reinvent the wheel. Use recommended resources and templates to make your contract game strong and fast. Nobody wants to read 17 pages of legal jargon. Customize them to fit your unique business style. Talk to your people the way you talk to your people. Okay? All right, so let's recap. Let's wrap this up. Clarity, explicit terms, and tight agreements are your business armor. You put these tips into action, you stay ready to secure your coins. You have to be active though. When I drop these contracts, I want you guys to be able to go in and do the homework assignment. If you got questions, I got time for you to hit me up for resources. Make comments under this post. And remember, with me in your corner, you know you definitely got this. Head on over to the guides, do the homework assignment, and let's talk about it on Thursday. All right, y'all. Until next time.